In a typical manufacturing plant or a service organization, production scheduling people predict what the plant needs to produce based solely on what inventory is in the plant at that particular time, or what they think they've got out there, and what the customer forecast at that particular time. And oftentimes, unfortunately, there's a lack of connection between what is actually happening on the plant floor and the schedule to produce more inventory. Scheduling, if you will, pushes material into the plant and pushes inventory through the system all the way up to the dock door where it sits for customers, waiting for customer orders. From a people perspective, it can be debilitating to realize that you worked at this blistering pace just to see days and days of inventory sometimes stockpiled at the back door. As much of a problem is that this is an expensive way to schedule and operate the plant or your service. Remember, the organization has invested significant dollars into inventory without any promise that the customer will purchase that inventory if all you're doing is just pushing the inventory all the way through the system, stockpiling it at the door. You might as well be stockpiling bundles of cash there.
In financial terms, this cash sits on the asset side of the balance sheet waiting to be converted to cash. No guarantee that it ever will be, though.
Now, there are times when you do need to have a safety stock to cover for weather events, power outages, planned outages, that sort of thing. But that stockpile is planned for and expected. It is generated from a strategic initiative. It's not an unintentional consequence. As an alternative, in a plant or a service organization committed to lean, inventory is not pushed into the plant from suppliers. It's pulled all the way through. It's pulled from a customer generated an order all the way back to the supplier supplying those parts. This strategy of pulling material through the plant connects scheduling to what's actually happening on the floor and at the customer's plant. Most people respond better to this sort of a system because no one is overbuilding. The workflow is at a steady and sustainable pace. You know what? When inventory is pushed through the plant, like we just talked about, the workload is really fast and heavy sometimes, or it's really slow and boring at other times. An inventory management system that pulls material through the plant based on actual customer needs, not just a prediction, creates a safer environment, and employees are generally happier about their work. The strategy of pulling inventory instead of pushing inventory reduces the piles of inventory found in the operation. This strategy of pushing inventory through happens not only in production plants, but also in service industries. Imagine piles and piles of frozen hamburgers in the freezers at Burger King, for example. Ugh, an awful thought if you forget to rotate the stock or you're having quality issues with your burgers. You see, that's what piles of inventory can do to you. It hides problems. Problems like quality issues, work in process, scrap, vendor downtime, machine downtime. Here's the problem if you have piles of inventory all along the process. Your machine can go down and no one would care because you just pull from the huge piles of widgets that you've already made. Imagine going to Burger King and seeing piles and piles and piles and piles of hamburgers already made, wrapped, and ready to go. That's it. That's what it be. You get a cold hamburger, it's a quality issue, etc. So, and the sense of urgency and motivation to permanently fix machines when they go down, it delays fixing the problem for another day, another 2 days, whatever the case is, because you have these piles of inventory that are covering up the real problem. So that brings us to this final discussion just on inventory and scheduling and waste. In an operation that's focused on lean manufacturing, it focuses on eliminating or at least reducing waste. And inventory is just one form of waste that we've been talking about. You can see there are other forms of waste throughout any operation that are listed here. Think about your own operation for just a moment, wherever it is that you work. In the next 30 seconds, tick off in your head as many of these forms of waste that you know are in your work area. Visualize them, see them. So listen, to help with this 30 seconds, I found a solo guitar riff from a guy named Lyle Rongling on YouTube. You can look it up. It's 30 seconds long. So while this guy plays his guitar riff for the next 30 seconds, think of all the places in your organization where these types of waste have shown up. Here we go. You ready? 3, 2, 1. Okay, how many forms of waste did you visualize in your mind? Can you see them now? Listen, your assignment is this. When you go to work the next time, go focus on reducing that waste. All right, talk to you later.